My name is Marjorie Drucker. I'm the president of the Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our 2022 Annual Award Celebration. We want to thank the JCC for co-sponsoring the celebration with us and are thrilled to be in the Vine Auditorium celebrating the many contributions of Hyla and Barry Vine with you today. We are joined by many friends and dignitaries who are here to pay tribute to the Vines and all they have done for the young and old for so many years. Our thanks to these special guests who have taken the time from their very busy schedules to support the Jewish Historical Society and to recognize our honorees Hyla and Barry Vine. Special thanks also to our guest speaker David Beckerman, who joins us today in tribute to the Vines as a prominent contributor to the history of sports in our Jewish community. I want to take a moment to thank those on the Annual Award Celebration Committee for their work in making this tribute possible. This includes our archival team of Patricia Illingworth, Jacob Griffith Rosenberger, and Daniel Harpin, who are here with us today. I would also especially like to recognize Harold Miller and Michael Dimmenstein. Without their support and commitment, today would not have been possible. Would they and all members of the committee please stand at their seats? If you're on the committee, please stand. And if you're Michael Dimmenstein or Harold Miller, please stand. I would also like to ask all our board members to please stand, and we want to thank you for all you do to support our organization. The work of the organization is to preserve the collective memory of the Jewish community of Greater New Haven. Our archival collection contains the documents, artifacts, and photographs that tell the story of our vibrant Jewish community here in Greater New Haven. The story is told by all of you, by the mementos of family and friends that you collect throughout the years. On one display with us today is a recent donation to our collection by our board member Elizabeth Brochin that depicts the story of her father, Burton Beck Resnick, amateur golfer and first vice president of the Woodbridge Country Club. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing this story with us. We hope it inspires others to donate their stories to our archives. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's in the corner when you come in the door. You might take a look. Also displayed around the auditorium and on your tables are some sport photographs and documents found in our collection. They have been chosen to spark a memory or pay tribute to the rich sports history of New Haven. As a special remembrance of this day, each of you have been given a copy of Volume 9 of Jews in New Haven, which you'll see on your desk and your table with a green and black cover. This volume contains stories and remembrances of life in New Haven, including those of Barry Vine's and David Beckerman's. Enjoy learning more about their amazing stories and those of others you will recognize. Your support and presence here today ensures the advancement of our mission and the continued preservation of the many stories told by our Jewish community that we can pass on to future generations. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce you to our MC for today, our esteemed board member and chairman of the membership committee, David Slossberg. Thank you all for coming.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad that we're together. It's not as often as we'd like, but hopefully we're going to be doing this more. And this is a wonderful turnout for our Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven. We're gathered, of course, to honor Hyla and Barry Vine, and we're in the auditorium named for them. And it's also a great pleasure for me to have here with us today David Beckerman, who will be our featured speaker, and he's making a face over there. But being a member of the Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven is a passion project for me. My grandfather, Herman Alperin, came to New Haven through Ellis Island in 1902 at the age of 4 years old. His later wife, Alice, was born in New Haven with her 3 sisters and lived my great aunts on Hubinger Street and my grandmother on Bellevue Road. The name was Alperin. He was the accountant, not the butcher, the other Alperin in town. And my great aunt Belle was a nurse at St. Raphael's Hospital during World War II. And I'm really happy that my mom, Edie, is here today. So if you want to pick her brain, she can tell you about Hill House, she can tell you about Legion Avenue, she can tell you about the original B'nai Jacob, and all of those things. So, and I'd also like to add one other thing. Whether you were born here or found your way here through happenstance, you were part of the history of the greater New Haven Jewish community. So you don't get out of it just because you weren't born here. And what I also want you to think about is that many of you are members of the organization. So let me put my membership hat on for a minute. If you are, thank you. And we appreciate you being part of this. If you're not yet a member, join. Be part of it. Be part of the programs that we're running and all of these wonderful things. And I do want to give a special thank you to Marjorie and to Burton Levine. They have taken an organization and breathed new life into it. And it's so important not only to record our past, but also for the future of our community and make that connection. So with that, I did want to, I'm wondering, is the mayor here? Okay. By the way, we're gonna be flexible. We're gonna move on. I do see the deputy first selectman, Woodbridge. So, okay. So Sheila McCreven. Selectwoman McCreven was first elected to the Board of Selectmen in July 2021 when she was also appointed deputy first selectwoman. She brings her years of experience in communications to her job, presently serving as Director of Communications for Yale University and having previously held the position for the town of Woodbridge. She served for almost 7 years on the Amity Region 5 Board of Education and most importantly is a proud graduate of West Haven High School. So with that,
I'm delighted to be here on behalf of Beth Heller to read a proclamation from the town of Woodbridge. Whereas Hyla and Barry and Vine have been involved in leadership positions in both the Jewish and larger community, and whereas Barry helped establish the Jewish Federation, where he remains as a trustee, and Hyla serves on the Jewish Family Services Board of Directors, and whereas Hyla and Barry continue to generously support the foundation and many community organizations, and whereas through the years, Barry and Hyla have been honored for their work and philanthropy in the community, and whereas the town of Woodbridge wishes to acknowledge such generosity in the community, especially Hyla's Lion of Judah endowment to the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven. Now, therefore, Beth Heller, first selectman of the town of Woodbridge, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, offers congratulations to Hyla and Barry.
well, I think the next person I'm going to introduce, just because I want to, is our friend and Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. As if Rosa needs an introduction. This is what I know about Rosa. She spent her career fighting for working families. She has devoted her talents to improving and expanding federal support for child nutrition and modernizing our food safety. And think about it. There are 435 members of Congress in the House of Representatives, and our Rosa DeLauro is the chair of appropriations. And I know that she's been working at all the things that have gone on recently and all the advances on climate and the things that we have done. She's been right in the middle of it. And so Rosa, I also want to mention that you are a proud graduate of Columbia University, of which that is, very personal to me. So with that, please, Rosa, come up and say a few words.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm really so honored to be here with all of you. And today, as we, and it is the Vine Auditorium. Is that right? So, yes. And the Jewish Historical Society, I just started to thumb through the book there and looking at, faces that I know, names that I know, etc. And I'm really, I want to congratulate you on really putting together what is so critical is a Jewish Historical Society. Collect the data, collect the information, tell the stories. That is so critically important. And it's beautiful. And David, I thank you for your kind words. And so forth. Yes, I am a graduate of Columbia. I knew as you were talking, I thought, what an extraordinarily rich history. And if you take thumb through the book that we have here, and your mom who can talk about Hill House and Cross, and Legion Avenue, and David, and Barry and Marvin. I mean, Legion Avenue. It's like, I'm Worcester Square, so, but it was, really an anchor in our, in the fabric of the city of New Haven. And when I think about all that those of you have done to engage and invest in your community and in the greater New Haven community, it really is extraordinary. Let me also recognize Judy Alperin, CEO of the and I just got to meet Rabbi Pernick here, so the Community Relations Council and the Federation, so a delight. I look forward to working with you. And the guest speaker, David Beckerman, really the wonderful work that you have been engaged in over the years, and again, what a difference that you have made to our community. So, each year we gather to recognize individuals who dedicate themselves to enhancing our community, to improving the quality of life for others. And this year you could not have chosen a more deserving couple than Barry and Hyla Vine. And so I am honored to be with all of you as we honor the Vines for their philanthropy, for a lifetime of contribution to our community. And over the course of their lives, they have generously supported a countless number of organizations, projects, programs, not only with their philanthropic donations, but with their time, with their talent, and with their compassion. And at the core of Jewish tradition and life, if you will, is the concept of a mitzvah, generally known as good deeds. One of the most important is tzedakah. Did I get the pronunciation right? Thank you. Okay. Or philanthropy. This is more than a simple financial transaction. It's a form of social justice in which donors and recipients benefit as social bonds are woven. It's about building trust and relationships that in turn strengthen the fabric of our community and create an environment where all can thrive and prosper. Barry and Hyla Vine are the embodiment of that tradition. From the children who are able to attend summer camp, to the Send a Kid to Camp scholarship program, to the clients who find access to food, to counseling and support at the Jewish Family Service, to the seniors at the towers and adults with disabilities, and the students at the New Haven Public Schools, the lives that have been touched by Barry and Hyla's commitment to community are innumerable. And whether volunteering their time at a local school or food pantry, making a financial contribution to support medical research or the preservation of Jewish culture and heritage, giving back is just who Barry and Hyla are. They embody the Judaic concept of Tikkun healing the world one step at a time. And their generosity of spirit should be both recognized and celebrated, and that is what we're all doing here today. And as a token of my appreciation, I am so proud to present you with a statement that I submitted to the Congressional Record, which is honoring your service. And as you may know, the Congressional Record is the official history of the legislative session. It's archived in the Library of Congress at each session. So, Barry and Hyla, you are now an official part of the Congressional history. I thank you again for inviting me to join you on a very special day. It is with my deepest thanks and sincere appreciation that I congratulate Barry and Hyla Vine on his most deserving and well-earned honor. If I might end with a quote from a woman who was a hero of mine, and that's Shirley Chisholm, the first African-American woman to serve in the United States House of Representatives. And she said that public service is the rent you pay for space on this earth. And to Barry and to Hyla, you have paid that rent over and over and over again. God bless you and thank you. Thank you for including me.
For our next presentation, I'd like to introduce Dr. Diane Ariza, who I had actually quite a wonderful conversation with earlier. She's the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Southern Connecticut State University. Dr. Ariza brought with her to this position more than 2 decades of experience of leadership in social justice and background in teaching and research and ethnic studies, which included serving as Chief Diversity Officer at Quinnipiac University. While we are happy to call her our own, she serves in a national capacity as a member of the National Association of Chief Diversity Officers in Higher Education Conference. Dr. Ariza holds a Director of Philosophy degree in Sociology from Western Michigan University and a bachelor's degree in History and Spanish from Stetson University. So, Doctor, if you can come up, that'd be great.
Sometimes you forget your accomplishments, and so when I was listening to you, I go, yeah, I've done that, yeah, I did that too. But I will say that I'm really deeply honored to be working at Southern Connecticut State University, and some of you who know some of my work for the last 2 years, it's really trying to think about social memory, loss of memory, history as a social justice issue. And I've shared that with some of you, that when our traditions and our memory and our language go away, then what do we have left? And so I am deeply committed to this work. And as some of you know, Southern Connecticut is as well. Again, good morning. I am honored to represent Southern Connecticut State University, which has served the Jewish Historical Society's home for, I didn't know this, but is it right to say past quarter century? Marjorie, is that right? That wrote it? I mean, I looked at this and I went, okay, my work is done. No, I know we have a lot of work to do, but that's honorable. And I'm, deeply, deeply committed to be here today for your annual award celebration, and certainly to honor many of you today, but certainly today, Hyla and Barry Vine, for your lifetime contributions to the Jewish community and the Historical Society. Again, congratulations to both of you. This is a wonderful, wonderful recognition, and you should be applauded. We're going to be applauding them throughout. Southern's relationship, and I think some of you know this already, with the Historical Society, with its long residency on campus as part of the Ethnic Heritage Center, brings the university closer to the heart of New Haven. And I will tell you, and some of you know this already, that you go by that building, and we're trying to do better with that, because we think that it should be closer to the community. It should be on our main campus, so we are working very hard to do that. New Haven's Jewish history is an important part of the fabric of New Haven's identity. The campus presence of the Historical Society, along with the other members of the Ethnic Heritage Center, for me, but for others, represents the university's social justice and anti-racism mission at the university. And it's not just in philosophy, but it's how do we think about this in action? What are our next steps? So when we think about supporting that mission and vision, we think about the preservation of the local Jewish community's history and heritage. Southern demonstrates, and again, I'm a newcomer, but I believe in Southern. I believe in our long-term commitment to inclusion and its foundational goal of contributing to education, cultural engagement, and opportunities to strengthen well-being in Greater New Haven and beyond. And so I take this personally when I'm working with students and when I work with faculty, and I do this every day. It's my full-time job to not just educate our students, but also to educate our faculty and how they engage around diversity and inclusion. And so I think of the Historical Society as bringing that unique and necessary perspective to not only New Haven, but to Southern Connecticut State University. So in short, your presence on our campus is good for all of us. I will say also, as a university that is committed to becoming a social justice and anti-racist university, and I say this becoming because we are not there, right? Society is not there, so it's advancing this work every day, one step at a time. We at Southern work towards not only treating others with dignity, respect, kindness, compassion, and civility, but we also strive for equity and inclusivity for all members of our community and beyond. Our commitment to diversity, equity, access, inclusion, as I said earlier, it's threaded through the institution and not just in my leadership. We believe that our commitment to this work should expand beyond our campus boundaries into our city, in our region, and in the world, We ask members of our community to engage in the world around them and the issues that matter most to them. We ask them to be allies to those who need one. We ask them to use their voices to speak out against injustice and hatred. And Laura, I just want to say thank you for every time I'm in your space. You're speaking on behalf of so many communities, the LGBT community last night, to the Black community. I'm just to be in your presence, I'd honor you. None of our goals are achievable overnight, but we are finding ways to contribute however we can and to move forward as a community. We at Southern are very, very pleased that we can provide a home to the Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven, and we're glad to have been included in today's very special event. Congratulations again to the Vines for your incredible work and legacy to the community, and thanks to all of you for continuing to remind us of who we are and where we have come from. Thank you very much.
So we're going to have a surprise presenter because the senator from the 14th district couldn't make it today, but I do happen to have the immediate predecessor in the 14th senatorial district who actually happens to have a citation from the state of Connecticut. And so I'd ask my wife Gayle if she would come up and present it.
Good morning. It's so nice to be with all of you this morning. And yes, this was the phone call this morning when David says to me, "Hey honey, can you grab the citation and do you mind running over here?" And I was planning on being here anyway though, to be able to honor Barry and Hyla for this wonderful event this morning, as well as to acknowledge the incredible work that's been done to breathe new life into the Jewish Historical Society. So much work has gone on to make this event the great success it is this morning. It's a great kickoff. Anytime I could be in the same room with Rosa is a good day. We are so lucky, so lucky to have her leadership now, in the past, today, and hopefully in the future for many, many years nobody works harder for us every single day to make that happen. And just to be able to acknowledge our great leadership with Judy Alperin here at Federation for the wonderful work that she has done. So thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you. And with a little bit of your indulgence, I will read the state citation. I think I remember what it looks like. I hereby have a State of Connecticut General Assembly official citation, and it is introduced by Senator James Maroney, Senator Jorge Cabrera, and Representative Mary Wielander, and it reads, "Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly offers its sincerest congratulations to Hyla and Barry Vine in recognition of receiving your Lifetime Honor Award from the Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven for your generous philanthropy. You have impacted the lives of so many through your sponsorship of the Vine Family Auditorium at the JCC, the founding of the Send the Kid to Summer Camp Scholarship, your aid for the towers, which, by the way, at 1 o'clock we'll be doing groundbreaking if you'd like to make it a full Jewish day, your support for medical research in juvenile and rheumatoid arthritis and liver disease. We thank you for all you do for our community and wish you both the best. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success given this 18th day of September 2022 at the State Capitol in Hartford. Barry and Hyla, congratulations, and thank you so much for everything you've done for the community.
She's done that a few times, I think. Okay, so let me say a few things about Judy. First of all, we are indebted to her for her leadership of the Federation for these last many years, and particularly navigating us through one of the most difficult times we've ever had with the fire here in the building, and helping us to really just make it through with all of the things that she has done. We're going to miss you, but by the way, you are a part of the New Haven Jewish community and its history, so you don't get off that easy. And so you're going to enjoy grandchild, but we want to thank you for everything. So yes, please come up and address everybody.
So thank you. Before I begin my remarks, I just want to say to Dr. Ariza, I'm thrilled to hear that the university is hoping to move the Historical Society to the main campus and is committed to its future. That is wonderful news, so I applaud that. So thank you very much. So early in my tenure, I visited the Jewish Historical Society and was warmly greeted by Marvin Barger. Marvin's eyes twinkled as he walked me around the archive, excitedly showing me various parts of the collection and the robust history of the Greater New Haven Jewish community. How many of us in this room were regaled with stories about Golda Meir's pocketbook? So I immediately knew that the Historical Society was important and a very special community asset. Since that time, JHS leadership has invested in raising the profile of the Jewish Historical Society, enabling more people to learn about our collective story. Kol hakavod to you all. Through partnership and collaboration, today's Jewish Historical Society is leveraging opportunities to grow its impact, and that is commendable and absolutely should continue for many more years. With more than 100 years of history contributing to the strength and vibrancy of this Jewish community, I hope that the almost seven, that I've been privileged to serve may warrant a little footnote in an upcoming edition of Jews in New Haven. In January of 2016, as you mentioned, David, beginning on the heels of Sidney Perry's amazing 13 years stewarding our Jewish Federation, our roller coaster ride together began, and we've ridden the ups and downs ever since. What's truly remarkable about this Jewish community is its resilience. Perhaps that is our uniquely Jewish trait. After all, as we look back through Jewish history, never mind New Haven Jewish history, ours has been a never-ending series of challenges. Yet, With creativity, commitment, ingenuity, perseverance, we find great opportunity. Like the leaders before us, when faced with such a moment, we must continue to capitalize and grow. Just during these past 7 years alone, we endured a devastating fire to emerge with a reimagined vision for this community campus that drove record levels of membership and participation, only to join with the world in enduring the COVID pandemic and its impact. But here we are again, strong and sure. Record attendance at today's bagel run, a beautifully filled auditorium with all of you, growing and expanded programs, many new partnerships and collaborations, and a new investment in Jewish education and Jewish life, and a community that is experiencing a renaissance. None of this would be possible without the incredible leaders and philanthropists, the clergy that support this community. Today, we are honoring Barry and Hyla Vine, and I cannot think of a better example of those who built our community and continue to build its future. Mazel tov, Barry and Hyla. And to your very special guest speaker, David Beckerman, who is another shining example of leadership through action. For we would not be gathering today in this very, very special place without his foresight, hard work, and generosity. So, if you'd like to hear more about what makes our community great, I will have a little bit more to say about that later this week at our annual meeting this Thursday night, 7 o'clock in this very space or on Zoom. And if you haven't had a chance to register yet, please do so. So let me offer my hearty Yasher Koach and Mazel Tov to Marjorie and to Michael and to the entire Jewish Historical Society. Thank you for your leadership in stewarding our collective memory.
Well, before we have lunch, we did want to remember some people who have passed in the last year. And in memory, I know we have Marvin's picture up there, and Judith Schiff as well, people who gave so much to the organization. And we would also like to remember Bernard Alderman, of course Marvin, Irving Halleckman, Daniel Krevelin, Howard Ryder, Stanley Sachs, Judith Schiff, and Edward Winnick. And may their memories be for a blessing. So with that, I actually think now we're at lunch. So, hi Rabbi. I'd like to welcome the Rabbi who has just joined us. I think you've made a sort of like a pilgrimage, right? You started in New Orleans, then you went to North Carolina, and you're getting smarter every time you come north. It's awesome. So come and say the Mosey.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Okay.
Teavon.
Lunch is served. David Beckerman is our featured speaker. You know, this is actually a personal, really a wonderful thing for me personally to be able to introduce you, David, because our paths sort of intertwined over the years. When David was coaching the JCC in the 1970s, I was playing basketball at Hampton Hall. We would scrimmage one another in those years in the late 70s. And then when I left Hampton Hall, David came and he went on to this illustrious career. 8 New England championships, 6 Fairchester League titles, 500 high school basketball victories, and that also includes, since he had a bee in his bonnet, he couldn't get this coaching thing out of his system, so when he went down to Florida, he would coach down there. But of course, David has been so important and such a fixture in our Jewish community, and his philanthropy, not only at the University of New Haven where he graduated, and I know that that's so important to you, David, but certainly here, we're sitting in a JCC, and it was really so much of his just heart and soul and everything that we're here. And most importantly, I should say that he couldn't have done any of this without Ruth Ann. So let's just set that straight for a moment. Now, David, before I call you up here, I have some trivia. I'm going to ask you a question and see if you know the answer. Before you got to Hampden Hall, the decade that before, how many Fairchester League championships did Hampden Hall win? Do you know what year that was?
It was the year that you had the yellow curtains.
Right. That was the 1979-1980 team. You right? Is that right? You don't, you sort of remember. Who was the starting point guard on that team?
Mark Sklar.
It was actually yours truly. But in any event, David, come on up.
Thank you, David. Before I was asked by Harold Miller if I would make some comments about sports at the JCC and the basketball program. But first, I'd like to echo what many of us already know, and that is my congratulations to the Jewish Historical Society on honoring this morning. Barry and Hyla are by far well-deserved of this honor. Although the subject is based on sports, and there's some relationship, I think, to Barry and Hyla, it says to me very clearly that Hyla is the athlete in the family. I know Barry a long time. He lived on Date Street, off of Legion Avenue. I lived on Scranton and Greenwood. And I remember selling pennants and flags and pins at the Yale game, and he sold them. And it clearly was a view of someone who had a real heart, and still does. And it's an honor to know him. I'm really glad that, in my opinion, long overdue. I've been asked to talk a little bit about the championship team and some of the memories I have in terms of coaching and basketball here at the center. And it takes me back to a young boy of probably 7 years old, and at the Jewish Center on Dwight Street. I'm sure there are a few people who kind of remember it, but not everybody. And you walked up a metal spiral staircase to go upstairs. And it was a small gym, but you couldn't shoot from the corners because the rooftops were too low. So you shot in the middle. But the program at the center was really terrific. Lenny Margolis really kept it structured. Alan Greenberg continued the tradition. There were so many things going on. I remember it was 1959 when Lenny came to me and asked me if I would coach the juniors. They had a varsity team and a JV team. And these were competitive teams, because you have to understand that Sundays there was bitty basketball, and you probably had 10 or 12 teams, and it was packed every Sunday. And then you had the Bob Winnick League, which was probably 8 to 10 teams as well. So the varsity and the JVs were the competitive teams that they played. And he asked me, because it was so many people wanted to play the 7th and 8th graders, if I would coach the juniors. The first team, there are 2 players that come to my mind. You know, I think Eddie will remember one of them. We had a boy by the name of Stu Groves. Stewie played for the first junior team that I recall. He had later on played at at Quinnipiac and even coached at the University of New Haven. And then we had a young kid, only in the 7th grade, by the name of Billy Evans. Billy was the first, went on to play at Hill House. They won a state championship, but he also was the first recruit of Bob Cousy. And Billy went to Boston College, played a year or two in the ABA, and became a lawyer. Later on, I hate to admit this, but Alan Greenberg and the Greenberg brothers played on the juniors. How many years ago was that, Alan?
Too many.
That's right. It was too many. And then I moved on as I started in business and started doing the JVs. And the JV program was a feeder program. It was feeder to Hill House or feeder to Amity or whatever, or to our varsity program. And each year you have a program or a team or an incident. I remember the one particular game where actually we had a little bit of an issue with one of the kids on our team who played for Michael J. Whalen. And Michael J. Whalen was the team that we were about to play that day. And Michael J. Whalen hadn't lost in 3 years. They had won 68 straight games. And Paul, who was on our team, had a decision to make. And I said, look, Paul, don't worry about it. So you want to play in high school, you go play for Michael J. Whalen. Well, he did. 4 overtimes, and we won by 4. And it was a game that I remember. Reggie Darden was on that team, and who later on became a captain at Hill House, and then went to a school in Lancaster. And there was a lot of memories, but coming to the year of the center in terms of the national championship, for me, I was fortunate enough to have 6 or 7 boys on the JVs that you would bring up to the varsity. And it was, I believe, 1977-78, which was really the platform of what happened. And I wish Norma was here because I wanted to ask him a question. Norma had left. We had a pretty good year that year. We won 24 games and only lost 5. And we went up to New England's and won the New England's. And now that gave us a berth in the Nationals, which was what they call the JWB, Jewish Welfare Board. And that tournament was in Louisville, Kentucky. And when you say Louisville, Kentucky, they're the host team, so they could pick who they wanted to play first. They picked New Haven. It was a mistake because our kids really came to play, and we won the game, and then we went to the semifinals, which was a memory of something that as I said, I wish Norm Feidelson was here because an incident happened. Fortunately, our manager, who was terrific, Stewie, recognized it. But it was 3/4 of the game. We're up 3 points, middle of the 4th quarter. The scorekeeper pushes a button and rings the bell and calls the referee over. Now understand, this is the middle of the 4th quarter. There's less than 3.5 minutes to go, and says that this particular boy on New Haven, who has a uniform number of 22, in the book he's 20. It's a technical foul. So, I started arguing with the referee. I said, look, the rules state that if there's intent to hide or intent to cheat or intent to do something, referee says, sorry, technical foul. I argued a little bit too much. I got a technical foul. What happened was, Mark, sound familiar, Mark? They went to the line, they made the 2 foul shots, that they made the foul shots on the technical foul shots. Now you have to understand, we're playing Bayonne. It's a team that we played during the year and beat them by well over 20 points. So it was kind of disappointing that that had happened. What happened? Now all of a sudden they make 4 foul shots, they get the ball back, they score a basket and foul. All of a sudden we go from 3 up to 4 down. Momentum changed, and we ended up losing the game by 3. Remember the kids, the heads were down, and they were obviously disappointed. In fact, I had told them that I had a philosophy then, and I still do, that a 1 or 2 point victory or loss is always the coach's fault. I mean, if you think about that, at the end of the game, 30 seconds to go to the game, should we give the ball to Goldstein? Or should we give the ball to Sklars? Do we play zone? Do we play man-to-man? Do we call timeout? What do we do? So I always felt that decisions that were made at the end of the game were part of the coach's responsibility. We lost, we went home. The next season, which is the season of the national championship, and I'd like to insert here that there was a tradition at the center and I thought about all of the coaches. You know, Izzy Resnick was the first coach that I knew of at the center on the varsity level. He got to the finals once. Then Red Kleinberg came in, who was a student of the game. He got to the finals 4 times. In fact, one time, in I believe it was in Bridgeport, they played Cincinnati, and they were up 6 points with a minute to go and had the ball and lost. It was a tough, tough loss. Jimmy Wolf was another one who got to the finals once. I believe it was in New Haven against Bayonne again. Tough loss. And then, of course, Mark had got to the finals in Miami. So the point I make is that they helped the structure. They built the path. It was, as I said, a lot more than just 1 year. But the 1979 team was really a special team. They understood what it took to win. And clearly that was a team. There wasn't any one player who could carry the load. We had a strong point guard in David Titleman, and Michael Myers, Dr. Stu Lazaroff, Larry Schindel, Jimmy Lemkin, Paul Kaufman, Artie Gutkin, Bart Cordell. It was really a team that was a team. Any event, we had played during the year, and there were 2 teams that were our arch rivals, really rivals. Bayonne, New Jersey, and JCH in Brooklyn. And Bayonne we handled pretty well. When we played Bensonhurst, and you have to understand, playing in Brooklyn at their gym is not the easiest thing in the world. And they're students of the game. I mean, they really understand how to play. We beat them in a double overtime, and we came home and we were on a run. Now, that year, we only lost 3 games. We lost twice to Hopkins, once in their tournament, once at home, and once to Cheshire Academy. Understand something, that here is a program that's playing high school teams. I'll tell you something a lot of people may not know, Gary Smirnoff. Alan, you remember Gary, don't you? He played on the varsity and was the only non-high school player. When I say non-high school player, I'm talking about from Hillhouse or Cross or Amity that was selected to an all-star team. It was quite a feather in his cap that he selected to an all-star team. I think it was held in Bridgeport at the JCC. Again, the only non-one, and that really spoke a great deal about our program. Any event, kids had school. We had to leave, I think it was on a Wednesday. And of course, everybody wants to skip school. I said, no, you got to go to school. They came back. We left the center about 4 o'clock on a 5.5, almost 6 hour bus ride to Washington. We get to Washington, D.C. at about 10:15, 10:30. And you know what it is to try to get these kids to get to bed and sleep and do all the things. And we try to find out exactly who we're playing and when. Hopefully we'll play in the afternoon. Well, there were 3 very good teams in that tournament. One was, Washington, the host. The other was Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and New Haven. We were playing Bensonhurst in the first game at 8:30 in the morning. The game began, went back and forth. We didn't play very well in terms of offense, but our defense was pretty good, and we played in the halftime. Now, it's hard for me to believe, but when I asked Stewie Katz, and he tells me he's 61 years old, and that kind of hit me a little bit between the eyes. Stewie was a very good manager, and kept everything in line. And I'm saying, you're 61. He said, yeah. I said, I guess that's because I'm going to become 80. You too, Barry. You too, right? Any event, that's one of the speeches or commentaries that I remember more than anything else. I went into the halftime, and it was quiet. All the kids' heads were down. We were losing by 18 points. Excuse me. And walked in. David, you remember what I said? No, you do. Okay. I said to the kids.
We were losing by 18 points.
Huh?
We were losing by 18 points. That was bad enough.
Well, we were losing by 18 points at halftime. I walked in and I looked at the kids and I said, "You kids are playing great." And they, their heads raised and looked at me. "We're losing by 18 points, coach." I said, "Yeah, but look at the stats. They were 13 for 16 from the floor. They made 13 shots out of 16 from the floor." I said, "They're living and dying by the jump shot. All you have to do is the beginning of the fourth quarter is break it in half. Be there by 9 and we'll be okay." Well, they came out and they hustled and they hustled and they hustled. And sure enough, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, we were down 8 points. We're going back and forth, and we're chopping away and chopping away. With 30 seconds to go to the game, our second guard had fouled out. I called Arthur Gutkin off the bench. Here's a young boy who had not played the entire game. 30 seconds to go to the game. We're down 2, and we put him in. Within 5 seconds, they went and whacked him. They fouled him. So now there's 10 seconds to go to the game. We're down 2, and Artie Gutkin comes in, hasn't played the entire game. I mean, it was like Hoosiers. He dropped the first one. He dropped the second one. Tied the ball game. We go into overtime. After we went into overtime, we ended up winning in overtime by 6 points. I mean, it was really miraculous to see from 18 points down and the hustle. And these kids were so happy, really happy. Not only about winning the game, but I believe that we played for New Haven, for all the teams and all the ADs. I mean, it really was really something special. Next, we had to play the winner of the Baltimore-Atlanta game. We played Atlanta, beat them, and now we have to play the host team, Washington, D.C. They were very big, a little slow, but very big. And, coaches make a difference. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about I'm talking about our adversaries. This was a group of kids that really understood what they were supposed to do. They knew their roles. So now we're up 10 points with about 2.5 minutes to go to the half, maybe 3. I looked at David, who was the point guard at the time, and I said, "Bring it out. Bring it out." Meaning that I wanted the ball outside, they were in a zone, and I wanted to play them man-to-man. The difference with zone is you play a particular location, man-to-man, you're playing only the man. So David turned around, I'll never forget this, he had the ball, put it on his hip like this, and Washington and the coach decided, let him stay there, don't go after him. David looked at the clock, looked at me, and we just let it roll down. What it was doing, as far as I was concerned, is we were going to begin the second half 10 points up. I didn't want to take a chance of losing the lead. Sure enough, they never came out to play us. They figured that, they're up 10. They were afraid that maybe we'd go up 12 or 14. So we went into the halftime up 10 points. The rest, we went and won the first national championship for the center. I remember Lenny was there. We let him get the trophy, and there was a big article written in the papers. And it was not only these young boys, but it was really about the program. It was really about the tradition. We won a lot of games, there's no question about it, but more importantly, I think there was a lot of relationships that we won. There were a lot of relationships that kids still have today. And I can't give you enough of a value on that. And it sort of coincides with the Historical Society because it's part of history. These friendships, the games, where they went. We had cheerleaders, kids met girls, I met friends, and the friendships that were made then are still there. But for me, it was a wonderful opportunity. And I can't thank enough the center or the boys. Certainly, you know, David, you made a comment. There's no question who has the most patience. That's my wife, Ruthie. Excuse me. After the championship game, we came home. Somehow I was selected to coach the United States Maccabeah team. We took 3 boys from the national championship team, which was David Teitelman, Michael Myers, and Larry Schindel. And that was really an experience to go down to Mexico City to see Jewish community down there was interesting. We had all these old cars beat up, you know, cars from the 40s, and you really felt bad for them. Then you went to their homes. Oh, different world going to their homes and what they did and everything. And they came out for the New Haven team or the United States team. And it was a terrific experience, as I said. In closing, I can tell you that places like this are so important. And you really become, you really understand it more later on in life. When you're a kid and you're playing ball at the old Dwight Street or at the Chapel Street, you're there to play ball. You don't think about who gave what or what did what. You don't think about the Vines who worked so hard for the center or for this or that. But years later, you do. And again, I'd like to thank Barry for all that they have done. And other than that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
So I guess now to our guests of honor. So Harold, will you come up and present?
And David asked me just a few minutes ago, what am I going to talk about? I don't know if I've got much to say, but I've got to thank you so much for being here and for everything you do for us, for the Jewish community, for our history, for the building, and for everything else. I've got a tough job today. You know, I've got to introduce someone who doesn't need an introduction. That's not so easy to do. And again, by the same token, here we're celebrating sports history of the Jewish community. And, I don't know about you, but I don't know if anybody's ever seen Barry in a uniform or dribbling or anything like that. So how do we tie all of this together? You know, just and then you start to think that sports is about teamwork, and sports is about camaraderie, and sports is about community. And then all of a sudden you realize, as I have, there's no one more committed to the community than Barry and Hyla. And all you have to do is ask our friends at the towers or you ask our friends at Jewish Family Service, or the synagogue, and certainly here at the JCC, where, for instance, our Send a Kid to Camp is so successful, in providing a marvelous summer camp experience for a diverse number of, young people. And now you get to know more about Barry and what he's all about. I've been involved in a few community events, and I can tell you that whenever I'm talking to Barry, I hear the same thing over and over. What do you need? What can I do for you? Because that's just the kind of person he is. He's on the quiet side. He doesn't seek accolades, doesn't have to. He just does things, and it is so much appreciated by all of us. But that's the kind of person he is. I mean, we all know that. And just being here at the Vine Auditorium in itself, is such a testament to Barry and his family. So in behalf of myself and as a member of the board of the Jewish Historical Society, I've asked Barry to say a few words. Now, it's not what he does. Like I said, he only quietly does what he does, and that's wonderful. But I certainly want to welcome him as a member of our Historical Society Hall of Fame for both of them. It is so marvelous and so well deserved. And Barry, could you come and say a few words?
I think there are two things that I got out of this meeting. One, I think I could run for public office with everything that's been said about me. And secondly, this is the Vine Family Auditorium. And while I gave 50% of the money, I called Ruby Vine, my uncle. And I said, Ruby, do you want to be in? And he said, sure. And that's how we got the Vine Auditorium. I thank Harold for everything he did. We spent a lot of time together, often with comedy and relaxed conversation. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. It's a wonderful feeling I get to look around the room, see family, friends, former co-workers, many of whom grew up in New Haven. I'd like to thank the members of the Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven for this honor, for Hyla and me. It means so much to both of us. People ask why I feel close to the Jewish Historical Society. And I reply, because it is an extension of my childhood. I really lived this as a kid. When our daughters, along and Glenn, were young, they would ask me, Daddy, where did you live as a little boy? What was Legion Avenue like? And I would respond by saying, girls, I can think of no other place in the world that I would have rather grown up in than Legion Avenue. It was alive, it was exhilarating, it was exciting, it belonged to us, it was our neighborhood. And wherever you lived, I'm sure you had your neighborhoods as well. There's an old adage that you can't go home again. When I think of the Jewish Historical Society and all that they have done to preserve our collective memories. I feel that I'm back home. I'm back to the neighborhood that I grew up in. I'm back to my childhood memories and experiences. And I'm back to my hopes and dreams for the future. Working with Harold Miller in preparation for this morning's event has allowed me to connect with him and relive some of our shared experiences and memories of the old neighborhood. Truly a delightful walk down memory lane. It's quite fitting that we share the program this morning with David Beckerman, because he was instrumental in my becoming actively involved in the New Haven Jewish community. You don't hear him say a lot, but he was the one person who invited me to become a member of the JCC Board of Directors. And following David's lead was the stepping stone for my involvement in the general Jewish community. David, I know you'll be speaking about athletics in Jewish New Haven, and a couple of the remarks you made weren't so pleasant for me to hear. But I have a fond memory of a story I'd like to tell. As a young kid, I was a member of the Biddy Basketball League of the old JCC in Dwight Street. In spite of my tall stature, I was afraid of the basketball whenever it was passed to me. One day I conquered my fear. When the ball was passed to me, I knew what to do and dunked the ball right into the basket, scoring the winning 2 points. Coach David Cantrell, my teammates, didn't seem so pleased. Apparently, I scored the winning points for the opposite. Preparing for today's program, I came across a speech I wrote for the 30th anniversary celebration of this Jewish Historical Society. I was truly amazed when I visited the Society's collection. Excuse me. Archives, and discovered how much had been achieved. Marvin Barger, a blessed memory, who became a friend of mine, was the archivist at the time. He gave me a tour. He showed me the histories of our Jewish institutions, the synagogues, the Jewish organizations, Jewish schools, information on Jewish-owned businesses, family histories, and hundreds of items pertaining to New Haven Jewelry. Martin showed me items from the collection, a mezuzah from Lenter's Bakery, the Torah crown from the Hebrew Institute Synagogue, a Jewish war veteran scrapbook, cigar box from German Jewish cigar makers in New Haven, Lieberman campaign advertisement, soda bottles, and a sterling silver Kiddush cup. The pride of the collection, as was said before, was a pocketbook left by Golda Meir when she visited New Haven in the 60s. David, we might want to have one of your coaching uniforms to add to that collection if you'd like. I toured the library, so many wonderful books and full sets of Jewish ledgers. I saw the videotape collection of the oral history program, the interviews of Jewish New Haveners, which described their recollections of the early years of their lives, the years we should always remember. As far as Hyla and I are concerned, one of the most outstanding accomplishments of the Jewish Historical Society is the publication of the Jews of New Haven series, as you have one on your table. These volumes provide a vast amount of fascinating information by individuals who helped shape Jewish New Haven, some familiar, some totally unknown. While reading these stories, these tales, I could visualize being there in that time and that place. I was touched at times with a smile, at times with a tear. These are the stories of our roots. As the Talmud says, when you throw a stick in the air, it falls back on its roots. As we read about our roots, we recognize that much of who we are and what we accomplish is based on the past. These wonderful people who came before us, who paved the way, who helped us build character and taught us that education, charity, and service to our fellow man is of absolute importance. Recently, I came across a poem by Elie Wiesel. Let us tell tales, all the rest must wait. Let us tell tales, stories. That is our primary obligation. Commentaries will have to come later, lest they replace or becloud what they mean to reveal. Let us tell tales so as to remember how vulnerable man is when faced with overwhelming challenges. Let us tell tales so not to allow us to forget. The last words belong to us. It is up to us to witness, to capture, to shape it, and transmit it to future generations. But thank you very much. Have a good holiday.
Hyla and Barry, this is for you. I'll bring it to you in a minute. It says, on behalf of the Board of Directors and membership of the Jewish Historical Society of Greater New Haven, we proudly present a portion of the proceeds of the 2022 Annual Award Celebration to the Barry Vine Syndicate to Camp Fund. In the age-old tradition of L'Adore B'Adore, this gift in honor of Hyla and Barry Vine will help to provide enriching summer camp experiences to children of Greater New Haven, of the Greater New Haven community, who represent our culturally and ethnically diverse community.
Hyla and Barry, thank you so much for everything, and congratulations. We're honored to honor you, so thank you for everything. I think that's the conclusion of the program. Just a little housekeeping issue for the two of you. I do have a citation from the city of New Haven. You can read it when you get home. Okay? And with that, thank you for everybody for coming. Stay tuned for our emails and programs that are upcoming, and take your volume of Juice in New Haven home and flip through it. And if you see anything that's interesting, email us, stay in touch, all right? And happy, healthy New Year, everybody.